You would have to jerk off if you were up in space for any
6
period
months?
of time.
As soon as you ejaculate and the lack of gravity, does every individual sperm separate and it just turns into a fine mist?
Then there's cum everywhere.
Do you think it's easier to clean up cum in space, or is it more of a mess?
I bet no, it's easier because it's gonna be
Just shoots and it goes.
yeah.
You just go.
Summertime and the weather is hot.
It's nice out.
It is nice out. Feeling good, feeling fine, ready to rock this Friday into the weekend. And buddy, it's Friday. You know what I'm saying?
Oh my
It's
God.
woo!
Working for the weekend.
Except when we record this, it's Thursday, so now I'm kind of bummed.
Ah, shit, you're right. I actually, for real, for a second there, fully believed it was Friday.
You said it with so much conviction,
There was-
but
yeah.
I know that you're such a good actor that I was
damn.
like, maybe he's just
No,
really selling it.
I'm fully confused. It's because I'm flying to Toronto on Saturday, and every day feels like Friday right now.
Yeah, that's fun.
Guys, guess what? It's Donut's birthday.
Hey,
Aw,
happy birthday,
Donut is
bud.
1 year old today. Happy
Aw,
birthday, buddy.
Buddy, happy birthday.
Happy birthday, buddy. Yes, you're 1 year old boy.
Rupert's
yes.
birthday next week.
Hello.
I wish Loki was one.
And that makes me really happy. So that's the first good news on this Feel Good Friday is that Donut is 1. Let's get right into it. Here's a story that is not nearly as cute as Donut turning 1. This is coming out of Shanghai. Authorities fire 4 officials after elderly patient blunder. One way of putting it. Chinese district authorities have fired 4 officials after an elderly patient from a Shanghai care home who was believed to be dead and loaded into a hearse.
Oh no.
No.
Spoiler alert, they weren't.
What a blunder.
Was having,
What a blunder.
I know, dude. That's such a like a
Whoopsie.
yeah. It's like a euphemism for major fuck up.
Yeah. On Sunday, online videos emerged showing 2 people who appear to be mortuary workers placing the body bag into a vehicle. I saw the video. It's like someone on a cell phone camera from like an apartment building looking down as they wheel this quote unquote dead body
So he was just having
in a bag.
nap. Like
In a bag.
I just-
I mean, super napping.
I just want to say that's a hard
Don't
word.
get out of there.
Mortuary.
Mortuary.
Well,
Mortuary.
Not hard for me.
yeah, it's me either.
Although there are a lot of words that are.
Say it 3 times fast. both of
Mortuary,
you.
mortuary. The workers are later seen pulling the bag open.
Well,
Asterisk.
Oh my God, guys. The workers are later seen pulling the bag open, and one can be heard saying the patient is still alive.
Oh no.
The incident has sparked widespread anger on Chinese social media. Officials in the Shanghai district of Puto confirmed that the incident late on Monday, adding that the patient had since been taken to the hospital and was in stable condition.
guys, is this a really sad story or a really funny story?
I think
It's
it's
a bit- I think it's both.
it can be both.
Because imagine
can be
them
there-
opening the bag up and the guy is just there and
He
he's
just
like,
goes, hello.
Yeah.
What do you think his reaction was? What do you think he said to them?
Probably her, what's the
Horrified?
yeah, yes.
Either horrified or like, he's old, right? So like maybe he's so old that he's confused.
Right.
And he just went, where am I? Except in Chinese.
Yeah, which is not Chinese, it's either Mandarin or
Okay.
Cantonese.
Yeah.
In a Chinese language, in a language spoken in China that
Yeah.
not English. 4 officials, including the deputy director of the local civil affairs bureau and the director of the care home, were fired. A doctor identified only by their surname, Tian, also had their medical license revoked. The patient's identity is still unknown. Many online condemned the incident, with former editor-in-chief of state news outlet Hu Shijing calling it a, quote, serious dereliction of duty that almost led to death.
So did they just like look at this guy and they went, nah, dead?
Yeah.
They just looked
I mean,
at him, like they didn't
honestly, it's
perform
like-
any tests.
Yeah, like how slow can one's heart beat?
I mean, God, like,
You know?
dude, do you know how widely
know what I
available?
mean?
Do you know how widely available heart rate monitors are?
I'm just confused because I feel like maybe this is a bit of a hot take.
Oh, we're
But
back with hot takes.
I feel like it's a bit of a harsh punishment for that. Like they made a mistake. The guy, he just ended up going for a car ride and then ended
That
up.
is a hot take, Brian.
Then he went back to the home. Like,
But he
yes,
almost got loaded in. He almost got put into an oven.
it was close.
That's the issue.
But
Yeah.
see, if he got put in the
if
oven,
the mistake continues for any longer, then that guy is dead.
Yeah.
see, you guys don't think that.
Also, it's probably not easy to breathe in that bag.
do you
Right,
guys
right.
do you guys believe that people should be able to learn from their mistakes?
Yeah, well, so these people will. They got fired, find a new job, and be better at the next one.
Yeah. They're not putting these guys to death.
See,
Well,
Taylor, is to me.
Maybe.
As far as we know.
Yeah.
To me, this is kind of like
This
your
is a state media story.
Taylor, this is like, to me, this, I feel like you should be on the same page as me because I feel like this is a little bit like your perspective on airplane accidents. So if you're about to board a plane and on the CP24 TV that's in the airport with 1,000 pieces of news flashing, if one of those pieces of news says that there was just a plane crash, then you're likely going to feel good about getting on that flight.
Yeah.
Because the odds are is that
Math.
it's the next plane's not going to crash too.
Almost
And if you
definitely
see
not.
fire on the runway, then you can almost be certain that it's definitely not going to crash again at your airport. So you can feel good about that. So to me, these doctors, they announced this guy dead mistakenly. It's an accident. It happens. And so when this guy ends up back at the care home, we can probably assume that they're not going to make the same mistake twice. So those doctors are probably safer than a new, better trained doctor that's going to come in, right?
Here is where the story goes from kind of funny to not so funny and actually kind of sad and pointing towards a greater issue that's happening in China right now that probably a lot of us aren't really that familiar with because there's so much, I mean, Johnny Depp and Amber Heard, like shit that matters.
How are you supposed
Will
to peel,
Smith
how you supposed to peel your eyes off of that?
Yeah. So another commenter on the social media site Weibo said
Weibo.
It was a sign of the quote chaos happening in Shanghai right now. So Shanghai,
It's
China's
fucking crazy.
largest city and home to almost 25 million people, is now in its 6th week of restrictions aimed at curbing COVID cases, which began spiking again in March. Most people are still banned from leaving their homes for any reason. COVID infected and their close contacts are forced to go into state-run quarantine centers.
Wow.
Video has emerged of clashes between police and people forced out of their homes. The BBC has previously reported evidence that authorities in Shanghai were struggling to deal with the outbreak.
You know what the problem is there is that they just haven't had a freedom convoy drive through town. If they just had a bunch of truckers
They just need a trucker
get together,
protest.
that would solve that really quick.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Like it did here.
Yeah, really. The
That might be a hot take.
The BBC has previously reported evidence that authorities in Shanghai were struggling to deal with the outbreak. China is one of the last remaining nations still committed to eradicating COVID, in contrast to most of the world, which is trying to live with the virus. But this zero COVID policy has come under strain in recent weeks with the spread of the Omicron variant.
It is so baffling. I can't even begin to try and wrap my head around the zero COVID idea. It just is so the amount of resources that have to go into trying to curb relative to what our experience has been in Canada and especially in the US and a lot of like Western Europe and to try and curb what is relatively no cases. Like very little COVID relative to what other places have experienced and dealt with. And they are trying to some of these, there was a place in I don't think it was Shanghai, it might have been Beijing. There was some section of Beijing or Shanghai that got shut down. This was maybe a month ago, where there was like 12 cases of COVID and they shut down a block of 3 million people.
Well, it just goes to show we are just getting a taste of how absolutely fucking chaotic the world could become if something really bad happened to the globe. Like COVID, obviously very bad, right? But let's look at COVID compared to the Spanish flu, right? So COVID deaths right now, somewhere over, what is it? It's just over 6 million. 6,283,131 deaths. The Spanish flu, reportedly, higher ends.
Was it 25?
Between 25 up to 50 million. right? So let's imagine a world for a second where COVID was not was obviously bad. It was this has been a very fucking challenging thing, but it hasn't yet like completely derailed society. But there are some pockets of society where it seems like it is kind of derailing the fucking system.
Because
Shanghai being an example.
And when the crazy part is because they choose for it to derail the system.
Right. So
that's what's crazy.
Right. And so that's my point. If that's happening with COVID,
yeah.
What the fuck do you think the entire world's going to look like if we come into some sort of pandemic that's, as deathly as Ebola, but as transmissible as Omicron?
I mean, I'm looking at. I mean, this.
It's just pure chaos.
This might go a little bit more in towards like philosophizing on cultures and things like different cultures and how their governments are run and things like that. But you're looking at a country like China, which has been run under this sort of like, what do they call it? They call it Chinese. They call it Chinese communism with capitalist tendencies or something like that. It's got a weird name like that, where they basically are a communist nation, but then there's also major global financial hubs in China that with public companies, and you can invest and you can make money and that sort of thing. And so, but you see with China since the very beginning that the reception to these like crazy lockdowns was much more accepted amongst Chinese people because of the way that the government with which all of those people have grown up with, which is like very authoritarian, very groupthink type of style, which comes from the type of government that they have. Like, I am envisioning the next like 20 or 30 years of China possibly being so radically different because of the way, if they go too far trying to push those limits of collective groupthink to the absolute limit by implementing this like zero COVID policy, where they're basically saying we are one group of people and we all have to do this one thing, which is shut everything down at all costs. Like you're brewing revolution.
It depends on how they contain that too, though, because you look at what has happened in Russia since Russia started basically waged war with Ukraine, and the people who speak out against the Russian government inside Russia, who are then
sent to a gulag.
Yeah, like put in jail.
But they're brewing revolution in Russia too.
Yeah, and so it's like, I mean, the battle is between like, is it contained by the authoritarian government, or is it able to get to a critical like sort of breaking point where it's not able to be contained anymore, and that change is actually like it sticks.
Yeah. Like when you try to control a portion of the population from an authoritarian government perspective, I think you can do that. Like, I think you can be successful in that as a government. Not that you should, but that you can. But when you try to do something to everybody that everybody's aware of and everybody's in on, like COVID and being locked down, like that's when you start to get people going. Because there's stories all the time coming out of China of people going, wait, what the fuck is going on here? And government protests, which are like not common, very uncommon in China, because it's such a no-no to be protesting the government.
Imagine if there was really a truck convoy that drove through, downtown Shanghai. Like, what would happen to those people in those trucks?
I mean, dude, that's like
nothing good.
That's like Tiananmen Square.
Yeah,
shit.
Yeah,
totally.
And that was a potential revolution that got shut down real fucking hard and real fucking quick, and erased from history.
Yep.
So anyway, that funny story is not so funny.
Damn.
Hey, but here's a fucking cool story. This is neat. Israel has just opened the world's most protected blood bank. It's rocket proof and it's fully underground. The world's most secure national blood bank opened in Israel on Monday. The most important parts shielded in an underground structure from terrorism, chemical and biological attacks, and earthquakes. Magen David Adams' $135 million Marcus National Blood Services Center has taken 4 years and some 11,000 tons of steel to complete. The guiding principle is that the country's blood supply is a, quote, strategic asset that may save many lives in emergency scenarios and as such should be protected. Quote, we visited many blood banks around the world when planning and found that there is simply no other country with a facility like this with such a high level of protection for the national blood supply. Moja Noyevich, the engineer who oversaw the project and senior official at the American Friends of Magen David Adam, which funded it, told the Times of Israel, quote, we have built something that's a new standard for protecting blood, which is as important as it is a strategic asset, he said. President Isaac Herzog, Health Minister Nitzan Horowitz, and other dignitaries attended the inauguration ceremony at the facility in Ramla, central Israel, on Monday. It will process and store almost all of Israel's blood donations for both civilians and the military when it becomes fully functional in the summer.
I don't know why I can't stop thinking about it as like this sort of like either like Mad Max style world or like Dune or Star Wars remote planet where there's like this big sort of like chemically altered human being that's just producing an insane amount of blood that's like chained up to the wall and like hooked up with like IVs that are just like sort of going into these
like the cows that we get our milk from.
Yes, totally. And
just sitting there going like so sad and just
just
constantly sucked.
like in Dune, like those like humans that are like the milk guys that are in the tubes or whatever that like
the
power
that
the ships or whatever.
Ships,
yeah, like that, except a bunch of people and their blood is being used to save people's lives.
I mean, like if you're gonna do it, it's got to be in an underground bunker that's like
and like
from
and like for
attacks.
sure drink almond milk or something. Because like, what are you doing drinking milk?
I had a glass of milk the other day.
So good.
It was so good.
Milk's so good.
It was really good.
It's the adult thing to do. The complex will replace the current beleaguered facility in Ramat Gan, which was built in the 1980s and no longer has space for the quantity of donations needed for Israel's growing population. Its lack of fortification means that during rocket attacks, Magen David Adam had to stop processing blood and move the blood reserves to a bomb shelter, despite the fact that blood processing is needed more than ever in times of war. Quote, the current facility is above ground, not secured against rockets, and which can reach the facility from both north and south, and not protected against earthquakes or other threats. Professor Ilyat Shinar, head of blood services at Magen David Adam, said. Noyevich emphasized that the facility also has advanced protection against cyber attacks. The center is named in honor of Bernie Marcus, the founder of the American home improvement chain Home Depot, and his
Wait, what?
Hold on.
What?
Hold on.
Wait, read that again.
Hold on.
Yeah, he owns the.
I literally.
It
sounded like I just made that up.
He owns the Atlanta Falcons.
The center is named in honor of Bernie Marcus, the founder of the American home improvement chain Home Depot, and his wife Billy, who donated $35 million to the project. Why is that so funny to me?
I don't know, man. I
mean,
love
it's
Home
really
Depot.
funny because I wonder if they got all their steel from Home Depot. You know, like
yeah, there you go. Yeah. Oh wow, you just pulled the thread.
That's it. Other contributors include Miriam and the late Sheldon Adelson, the Leona M. and Harry B. Helmsley Charitable Trust, and Bloomberg Philanthropies, Michael R. Bloomberg Charitable Organization.
See,
the state of Israel provided the land via a 2016 government decree.
the burning question that I really have is like, do you think the owner of Home Depot went in there and threatened to beat up the guy who was going to name it and was like, I either get to beat the shit out of you and it's an anonymous donation, or you walk out of here right now and my name goes on the.
Wow,
this guy's been watching
He's
some
been
fuck. This guy's been taking in content.
He's been taking in.
What
content.
do you guys think?
I mean,
do you think that's
a distinct possibility?
a likely scenario?
Yeah. I mean, I want to know if the Clinton Foundation's involved.
That was an Ozark reference there. If you haven't been watching the new season, fantastic. The building is made from non-combustible steel and concrete. There are 3 levels of protection with varying security zones. 3 floors are above ground, with each with its own shelters. The ground floor has training facilities, an auditorium, a dining area, and a blood donation wing for the public. The second floor houses the human milk bank.
Wait, does it actually say that?
Yeah.
No,
The
it
second
doesn't.
floor houses the human milk bank, where mother's milk is collected for premature and ill infants and more training facilities.
Yo, that's actually
Dude, and those women are chained up
I told
to a
you.
wall, and it's just going.
yo, guys, no joke.
Wow.
Although that is very funny and horrific. No joke. There is that would be something in the United States right now that would be that if it were actually there and available, this human milk bank would be incredibly beneficial because there is a nationwide baby formula shortage.
Oh wow.
And there's a crisis where where families are driving hours out to neighboring states to try and find baby formula.
Oh my
Man,
God.
imagine how much of a fucking shit show that will be too with the Roe v. Wade being revoked, and then people are forced to have kids and are
and aren't able to access the fucking food that they need.
Kyla sent me a it might have been a Fuck Jerry post, I don't know, or Fuck Jerry News post, that was something along the lines of Google searches for vasectomies have gone up 400% since the leak, since the Supreme Court leak.
The 3 underground floors are protected by extra thick concrete walls, blast doors, and airlocks, as well as shielding from biological and chemical attacks. The highest underground floor houses shielded blood bank laboratories, a transportation center, and secure fleet parking for loading blood into ambulances. The second underground floor houses the core blood inventory, an R&D molecular lab, and a chemical and biological warfare air filtration system that enables staff throughout the building to continue working and processing blood in the event of a chemical or biological attack. On the deepest level is the blood storage vault, a 300 square meter safe room shielded against the most severe missile threats. Every critical system has a secondary system, including 2 ramps leading into underground floors, 4 sets of elevators, and 4 generators. Dude, when I hear about these types of buildings, man, all I want is just I love getting a tour of a building. When we get like back in the day, we went to CBC and we were on the Current with Anna Maria Tremonti, and one of the handlers were like, "Do you guys want a tour of the news floors?" And it's a huge fucking cool ass building, downtown Toronto, down on John Street and Blue Jay Way, and those types of tours, I'm always like, wow. A tour of this fucking crazy
next
vault.
level. It makes me think of the building. I can't remember where it is. I want to say it's somewhere in Scandinavia, maybe. That is the bank with all the world's seeds and grains.
It's in Svalbard, I believe, where Dennis is right now. Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
Wow, that's remote as fuck.
Yeah.
Svalbard is. I mean, you're chilling with that. You're chilling.
Sorry, what is this? What are you saying?
It's a seed vault.
It's a seed vault with all the world's every flower, grain, plant, tree, seeds for everything in case of a global catastrophe.
Yeah, it's in Svalbard,
so that you could basically repopulate the earth with all the plant life that we have.
Dude,
what kinds of complexes do you think exist out there that we don't even fucking know?
It looks so cool too.
Shit like that.
Check out.
No, but I mean I
know what you mean, but
I'm talking about shit that we don't even have any idea of. Whoa, that's cool.
I'll put a picture of this.
Is it in Svalbard?
Episode. Yeah, it's in Svalbard.
Very cool.
That's pretty crazy.
Crazy,
Guys,
right?
Svalbard is you're chilling with Saint Nick up there. It's
it's the
you're up there.
That's where the most remote northern settlements are.
Nice.
Yeah. There probably is a ton of places like that are housing, like you said, shit that we don't even really think about, but that are pretty crucial to the way that we live as humans. And in the event of a fucking asteroid hitting Earth or nuclear winter or whatever.
What kind of vaults do you think are holding alien technology that's being, we're trying to reverse engineer to figure out so that
probably something in New Mexico, I'd imagine.
Honestly, if you want to think about the future and the crazy sort of sci-fi things that are happening now today, listen to Elon Musk talk. His recent TED Talk from TED in Vancouver, and the interview that he did at the Tesla Gigafactory. It's mind blowing. Talking about Neuralink, which can basically give people who are paralyzed a new life where they're able to once again control their body.
What's crazy about
even more
Neuralink?
impressive than that, and even cooler than that, is giving monkeys the ability to play Pong with just their thoughts.
Yeah.
What's crazy about
Yeah.
Neuralink
And giving them banana milk.
is when when Elon Musk describes Neuralink and it's like, well, maybe there's this potential for this, for every human to be like, 200% more intelligent than they are already. But just hearing him go, the worst case scenario is that we're going to be able to cure Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Or dementia, or give a paraplegic the use of their limbs back. Like that's the worst case outcome of Neuralink.
An interesting thing, a question that I have for you guys is one of the things they're talking about is like colonizing Mars, and the reason why it's relevant is because of like the Great Filter and talking about the Svalbard seed vault. Like, if we don't become a multi-planet species, then the inevitable outcome is that the human race will no longer survive. So we have to go off planet to even give ourselves a chance at surviving leave the planet. And so he said by like 2050 there will be 1 million people living on Mars. Would you guys be one of those people?
I'd be down.
By the time there's 1 million people there, it's because it's very livable. It's probably because it's good.
He said that it would actually, like, initially it would suck.
Oh,
it would be like the Western Expanse. Like,
yeah, totally.
It'd be, or even before that, it'd be like, just pilgrims coming over from Europe and like having their babies snatched up by the witches that live in the woods in New England.
But you would leave an incredible
except up there it would be like a glorgark that takes your baby.
The glorgarks.
The interesting thing is, like, I mean, you are sort of, your legacy is, being able to create a path for the human race to exist beyond the planet Earth, which is fucking crazy.
Little fun tidbit for the listeners here. Next week we are speaking with a woman named Maria Santaguida, who works out of university here in Canada, I believe out of Montreal. What is the University of Montreal? Starts with a C.
Concordia?
Carleton, or Concordia. Yes, thank you, Concordia. And her whole study is about sex in space and procreation in space. And,
wow,
and
that's fucking interesting.
It's going to be very fucking cool. Yeah. Very excited for that conversation.
Do you guys think anybody's ever had sex in space?
Yes.
On the ISS?
Yep.
Yeah. Of
You think, like,
we'll never know, but yes.
100%.
Do you think NASA knows? Like, do you think that the control knows?
Oh, I bet there has
Word
been.
gets around. It's a very small spot up there. You're gonna hear it.
I also bet that's been a non-publicly disclosed experiment that NASA has run.
Absolutely, yeah.
They want to know. Why would they not want to know?
I'm really curious about, like, how.
I bet you they were like. I bet when Chris was up there, they're like, Chris, look, we need you to becock.
Becock?
We need you to becock up there.
Becock? Or
Yeah.
becock?
Becock. We need you to becock it. We need you to milk up there.
Do you think it would
just
be
so we can know? Like, does it hurt your head?
I mean, it's like the most. It's like the most
when you-
basic human function.
When you shoot a load,
Yeah, I mean, you
what
have
happens to you?
to.
Do your eyes bulge?
You would have to jerk off if you were up in space for any
6
period
months?
of time, right?
And they
Or-
would,
or-
and they would want to know too, like,
or
when
hold on.
when the semen comes out, like, does the seminal fluid stay seminal fluid, or as soon as you ejaculate, does, because of the vacuum of space and the lack of gravity, does every individual sperm separate and it just turns into a fine mist? So what then?
And then there's cum everywhere.
Yeah,
it's
I was
just-
going to
it's
ask you.
fucking in the vents, and it's in the air filtration
Breathing it
system.
in,
and
yeah.
Do you think it's
Everyone's
easier?
hair.
Do you think it's easier to clean up cum in space, or is it more of a mess?
I bet it's easier because it's going to
Just
be.
shoots and it goes.
Yeah.
Do you think it
Yeah.
stays
And then
like
you
sort
just,
of?
you just go.
Do you think it
Yeah.
just wraps around the head of your dick and like sort of forms that
fuck,
like
Jesus Christ, Brian.
No,
you know
no,
that
no.
like you know
fuck,
no
dude?
no I'm being
I
serious.
mean,
like,
if you do it the way that you do,
No,
where
it
you
comes
where,
out.
if you
It comes out of you. It's
Well,
not.
no,
it's
but-
not
no,
tethered to your
no,
dick.
but Jared, if you do it the way that Bri does it, where he pinches his foreskin right before he comes and he
Okay, guys,
keeps it in.
We got to move on here. Hey,
yeah,
Brian.
it's called the water balloon.
Yeah. Then if you do it like Brian does,
Did you just
like
make that up?
Yes.
Ew.
If you do it like that, then it does stay attached to the head, and it is
Oh,
very
my
cumbersome.
God. Thank God I don't have.
Oh,
Thank God. Okay. Thank God I don't
it's
have.
very cumbersome.
What a
I
Jesus
didn't even mean to do that.
Here's a twin story for you, Bri. Psychologists.
Real twin or fake twin?
Well, I'll ask you a question here in a second. Psychologists found a striking difference in intelligence after examining twins raised apart in South Korea and the United States. Who do you think had the higher intelligence?
Wait, where the like based on where they were raised?
Yeah.
South Korea,
or the U.S.
yeah, South Korea.
Yeah, you're damn right about that. A new study of monozygotic twins. What's that?
I don't know.
That is a
You don't know?
identical twin. That is
It
that
is?
is one zygote that separates.
Right. Okay.
Okay, perfect. So I don't need to look that up. You got that?
Yep.
All right. A new study of monozygotic twins raised apart in South Korea and the United States provides unique insight into how genetic, cultural, and environmental factors influence human development.
What is a zygote other than
It's a
one of the races
stage
you can
of-
be in StarCraft?
It's a stage of embryonic development.
Okay.
The new research has been published in the scientific journal Personality and Individual Differences. Quote, I have studied identical twins reared apart for many years. They pose a simple yet elegant experiment for disentangling genetic and environmental influences on human traits. This case was unique in that the twins were raised in different countries, said researcher Nancy L. Segal, a professor and director of the Twin Studies Center at California State University. The twins were born in 1974 in Seoul, South Korea. One of the twins became lost at age 2 after visiting a market with her grandmother. Oh my God.
That's really horrible.
She was later taken to a hospital that was approximately 100 miles away from her family's residence. Jesus Christ.
Do you think they were in the market and the parents were like, okay, like say the names of the twins were mine and Dennis's names. So they're like looking for Brian and Dennis.
Not very Korean
And
names,
they-
but sure.
And they saw Brian and they were like, oh, that's Brian. And then they turn around, they were looking for the other one. And they just looked back again and they saw Brian again, but they're like, okay, there's Dennis. And they just confused the fact that they thought
They saw
they
the
had
two.
both.
Yeah.
but they were just spinning around too much,
Scenes-
probably.
Yeah, I mean, it could have been that. So she was taken 100 miles away from her family's
Totally.
residence and then diagnosed with measles. Despite her family's attempts to find her, she was placed into the foster system and ended up being
Oh my
adopted by a couple
God.
residing in the U.S.
Mm.
Dude, Korea's, I mean, there's a lot of people, but it's not that big. It's kind of wild that they
This
did.
was 1974 as well.
Okay.
It would also be really hard to walk around and try to convince people that you were missing a baby if you had a twin, because if you were like putting up missing child posters, people would be calling and saying, I found them, but they would just be referring to
Finding
the
the same-
twin.
that poor twin
Yeah.
that just kept getting found was
Yeah.
the wrong one. So
Good insight.
this girl that went missing got adopted by this U.S. couple. She later discovered that she had a twin sister after submitting a DNA sample in 2018 as a part of South Korea's program for reuniting family members. In the new study, the twins completed assessments of family environment, general intelligence, nonverbal reasoning ability, personality traits, individualism, collectivism, self-esteem, mental health, job satisfaction, and medical life history. They also completed structured interviews about their general life history. Not only did the twins experience different cultures growing up, they were also raised in very different family environments. The twin who remained in South Korea was raised in a more supportive and cohesive family atmosphere. The twin who was adopted by the U.S. couple, in contrast, reported a stricter, more religiously oriented environment that had higher levels of family conflict. The researchers found striking differences in cognitive abilities. The twin raised in South Korea scored considerably higher on intelligence tests related to perceptual reasoning and processing speed, with an overall IQ difference of about 16 points. In line with their cultural environment, the twin raised in the US had more individualistic values, while the twin raised in South Korea had more collectivist values. However, the twins had a similarly a similar personality. Both scored high on measures of conscientiousness and low on measures of neuroticism. They also had similar level of satisfaction with their job, even though their occupations were quite different. A government administrator and a cook. The twins had also had similar mental health profiles and had identical scores on the measure of self-esteem. Quote, genes have a more pervasive effect on development than we ever would have supposed. Still, environmental effects are important. These twins showed cultural difference in some respects, Segal told SciPost. Quote, we need to identify more such cases if they exist, she added. And we still do not understand all the mechanisms involved, from the genes at a molecular level to the behaviors we observe every day. Segal is also the author of the book Deliberately Divided, Inside the Controversial Study of Twins and Triplets Adopted Apart. That's
we should have
interesting shit.
we should have them on the podcast.
That's
really
very
should,
interesting because I mean it gives a lot of context to the nature versus nurture, which it should never. I don't even know why it's framed as nature versus nurture. It's just nature and nurture.
Yeah.
And it's there's a
I guess they
there's
say
a balance.
versus because, you know, it's like,
which one's greater?
is it, well, which one is like impacting, you know, said trait?
Yeah.
Was it nature
Yeah, it's
or-
not. It's not pegging them against each other.
or was
Yeah.
it nurture?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you know it's very obvious. That study points it out is how some things will be impacted by the environment and some things will be impacted by your genetic profile. And
I mean, that's
And-
something that I find really fascinating. The idea that like
some things
the
will be
genes, like our genes at a molecular level, have an impact on our behaviors as who we are as humans.
both. Well, I mean, think about
You know,
like
that's such a wild thing to think.
I mean, there's nothing behind this except for speculation. So I'll just
Huh, that's really off for
put
this
that- I'll
off
just
brand
put-
for us.
I'll just put that out there. But like, but you know, think about something like developing you know, anxiety or something like that at a certain point in your life. Like if you've got a genetic profile, and again, this could be totally fucking out to lunch, but if you've got a genetic profile that predisposes you to like lower levels of cortisol, for example, then you're not going to be as stressed. And so the stressful situations that arise in life are less likely to cause you the stress that would have otherwise begotten
Right.
anxiety.
Yeah, right.
And so like, you know, like there's an environmental aspect to like the thing
Yeah.
that you do, which might be stressful, but then you've got maybe a genetic predisposition to be able to not produce the cortisol levels that react unfavorably to those stressful situations. So
Yeah.
you've kind of got this nature and nurture aspect like colliding to give you, you know, maybe a lesser capacity or likelihood to develop something like anxiety.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. Yeah.
But the your genetic makeup still, like whether or not the environmental thing is true, your genetic makeup is still presents in that way that impacts your life in that way, whether or not you realize the impact of that is realized or not. I think of like Huntington's, for example. Like genetically, if you're gonna get Huntington's disease, I mean, there's no way that nature can impact the way that
Right. Yeah.
really shows up in your body. So like genetically, you're
That's
predisposed, I guess,
100% nature.
right. Yeah. So it's interesting.
Well, there you go. A little bit of twin fun for you, right? Let's
Yeah.
move right on to this week's edition of What the Hell? This is actually kind of a follow-up. I don't know if you guys remember this, but a long time ago we talked about on the show about a guy who was growing a penis on his arm.
Yeah.
I vaguely recall.
So, man born with micropenis says sex life is much healthier after growing a replacement on his arm. A man who was born with a micropenis has said his sex life is now much healthier after growing a replacement on his arm through a procedure known as phalloplasty. In a new Channel 4 documentary that airs tonight, we meet three men.
What about Channel 5?
Yeah, that's what I thought of immediately too.
We meet three men who have undergone the complex procedure, which involves taking skin from another part of the body to create a brand new penis, attaching this to a site on the body to grow before it's moved to its rightful home. This story is coming to us from Rogine, one of our Discord members, one of our patrons. Rogine, you get the award this week for Producer of the Week. Anik, 26, was born with an underdeveloped penis caused by a rare genetic intersex condition called partial androgen insensitivity syndrome. Initially, doctors believed he had a buried penis before telling him it was actually a, quote, micropenis. Speaking to Lad Bible, Anik said he carried a lot of resentment about the extensive surgeries he's been through, but has finally started to find peace with his journey. Quote, I lived with a lot of pain, which only recently has stopped, and the reason was that the surgeries were often unnecessary, he said. I was made to feel like I was a sick kid growing up in hospitals, when essentially I just had a body which was visibly different. The film, which also features a man who lost his penis due to an infection and a trans man, follows Anik as he prepares for his 30th operation in 20 years. Holy fucking fuck.
That's a lot.
Having decided to take the plunge on a phalloplasty for 4 years ago. The penis was grown on his forearm and then transferred to his groin, while skin from his buttocks was used to repair the arm.
You think you'd have like
Oh, I forgot about that part.
Do you feel like
Here's a photo of Anik, and you can see the scarring on his forearm there. It looks like a little dark patch.
Oh, wow.
And that's where the penis grew, and then that is also where the butt skin was kind of placed after the entire process.
I'm so confused about like how
Wow, that's so
like
wild.
like does
There's
it
a picture of
does
him in
it
the hospital.
have the
handsome motherfucker? Look at him.
the ability
Look at that hair.
to
He does
like
have really,
can they take that
insane.
blood supply and like make it become erect too?
Not on the arm.
not on the arm?
no, not on the arm, but like when they transplant it, like
I would say,
presumably it can become erect.
I mean, I don't
And
know.
what would be
I
the
don't know, but I would say probably there's probably like a vascular kind of attachment that's going on there that allows it to at least get some sort of blood flow.
So I'm
If
so
not, there's like a
interested.
pump. You know,
I'm really interested in like what
Right.
like the makeup is of like because like they're taking the skin and then growing a penis. Like what is
Like
what
what's
is-
the replica? Like the replicateness?
yeah like
it?
what's it like in it? Like you're taking that skin and like like when I look at my penis, like there's different skin on the shaft as there is on the head looks different and like so I'm curious about like
It's probably a pretty
like-
unique looking bird.
yeah
You know,
I'm just curious of what it looks
I
like.
wonder how.
Which
I, wonder
I mean,
how
like
big it is.
I mean,
yeah
I mean,
like,
because if you look at his forearm,
I mean,
here,
every bird is pretty
that,
unique.
If that scar is the size of his new cock,
I mean, you don't.
dude, that
you,
guy's
you
that
don't-
guy's
too
got a piece
big.
on
I
it.
think
don't
it's
see
probably a bit
many,
too big.
It's very big.
you don't see many. You don't see a dick that looks like another. They're all pretty.
Penises come in very different
They
shapes
are
and
all
sizes
very-
and looks just like breasts and
very
just like
unique.
all bodies. Since filming the documentary, Anik has had to have one more surgery to reposition the pump so that he could access it easier. So there you go.
So
Okay.
to get an erection.
While some pain is present, he says things are much better than they once were. Although the biggest change is arguably the effect the process has had on his self-esteem. Anik said, quote, my confidence has vastly improved since the final surgeries, and I am excited to start my life. I won't need another surgery for years, which literally has never been the case in my life until now. My sex life is becoming healthier, and a lot of that is down to my confidence around discussing my story. Phalloplasty has given me a sex life and something to talk about. Not many of us walk around with a customized inflatable penis. Anik said his family have always tried to make him feel comfortable with his body, but that this used to anger him when he was younger, only highlighting how alienating his condition was. He continued, quote, my mom and I have a complicated relationship, which is built on love and pain. In many ways, she was always more obsessed with changing my body than I was. But that was because she was told my body needed fixing, and that was a problem.
That's the thing that I find interesting, like talking about all of those surgeries that he had been through, 30 surgeries, like
Over 20 years.
trying to think about like what, like I'm curious about what the goals of those surgeries were. And, obviously like it's great that he's happy now with what he has now, but I'm curious if there was any benefit to the surgeries before, if they like really made a difference for him.
I don't know. I guess depending on what the surgeries were. It sounds like from his account they were just.
It'd be very fun to get
didn't-
him on the show and
They
talk
didn't
about
really
it.
do
It
anything.
seems like a lot of pressure and like
Yeah.
he said, a lot of pressure to sort of change your body to be a certain way, not because he necessarily, like obviously it sounds like he wanted this surgery, but but sounds like there was a lot of outside pressure and influence
Yeah.
for him to look a different way than he did.
He said, for my mom,
Which is a bummer.
she wanted me to be able to have a healthy life, a family, and find love. Everything she agreed for my care was based on that. She's a funny person and has been through a lot of anguish, particularly around me. My siblings do not talk to my mom about their bodies and sex life the way I do. Yet again, most people talk to me about it more than they would with others. People cringe when I tell them the story about my mom and my penis. She even offered her own arm to be used as the phallus.
Wow.
Whoa. Can you imagine growing your son's penis on your arm?
That would be too psychologically challenging.
That would be fucking wild
for
him.
For him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That
It
would
was
be
shit.
I mean,
in her eyes, she was trying to minimize my pain and she wanted to be the one to help. Luckily, she understood that I did not want her arm to be my penis.
Yeah, right. Like, it wouldn't feel like yours.
No.
Right?
No, my God. And not
and
only would
also
it not
it-
feel
it
like
would
yours,
feel a little
it would
weird,
feel
like
like you
it's
were
your mom.
fucking people with your mom.
Yeah. It's like, this is my mom's penis on me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like my mom's fucking this person.
Yeah. It's interesting
Wow,
that
I can't believe his mom was
that,
like, I'll grow your penis for you, but
the-
baby.
I mean,
thing-
nice gesture.
That is so
the
sweet.
thing that she said really like cuts deep with me, because like I feel like it's something that I talk a lot about with my therapist, is like this like idea that she wanted so badly to minimize his pain and sort of like make it easier for him to like to try to manage his emotions. And that is so incredibly unhealthy to like, obviously you want to be an empathetic and caring person, but like you can't control other people's emotions.
Mhm.
And as much as like as a parent, I imagine that you want to like, stop the pain or stop the hurt in those situations. It's it has to be more important
Yeah.
to let the person deal with those feelings.
Well, being
as they
a
need
new parent, like just thinking about and sort of speaking to the mom's position or the parent's position.
Can you imagine?
is-
Can you imagine if you were like, all right, Zaya, I'm gonna grow you a vagina on my neck, and this is I'm gonna do
I'll
this.
fucking do it.
Yeah.
I'll fucking do
like,
it.
but you would though,
No,
right?
but,
Like,
but not just that, but
or at
just
least you would have the like, look, I'll do fucking anything for
Yeah.
you, and if it means growing a vagina on my forehead for you, I will do it.
But speaking to the concept of, it always seemed like that the focus was on that my body needed fixing, that my parents thought that my body needed fixing. Like thinking from the parents' perspective, like when you have a kid, your baby is being, analyzed and
Oh,
checked up
prodded,
on
yeah,
and
yeah.
going and looking for anything that might be out of place. And as from the parents' perspective, you're being told if there is something out of place and what the impact of that out of placeness could be in the future. And I think sometimes there's something that's really common called tongue tie. And it has to do with like the frenulum, how the frenulum on your tongue grows.
yeah.
It's too
And-
tight.
And it can have impacts on speech and stuff like that. And like, but there's no way of knowing. Like it could have impacts on speech. And so, and there are obviously varying degrees of that, but I'm just using this as an example of something that's like really, really common on babies. And I'm sure that there's many cases where that would have not been an issue for that kid at all, but you do something about it. Like you choose to do an intervention because you're being told that this is necessary and that there's this potential problem. And, as a parent, you're going, I don't want my kid to have that problem that could beget more problems socially or psychologically. And it's a very like, it's a fucking minefield.
Isn't it crazy that the reason why like some of like a surgery like that could be performed is because people are assholes? Like,
right. Yeah.
Like it's all because like your kid may be less socially accepted, and so therefore you may want to expose them to this potential medical trauma because people are bullies. Isn't that fucking crazy?
Yeah.
It's more than just that, though. It's more than just people being bullies.
Yeah.
It's. I mean, this is like
It is more than
like-
just that, but
like-
that's
no,
but
like-
that is an
like-
aspect.
Well, like
of it.
it's a big part of it.
Yeah, well, yes and no, though. Like he could, Dude, the guy,
not this case, like the tongue-tied case
Oh, sure,
specifically,
sure,
where it's
yeah.
like
There's
oh,
much
like
more of a
they-
personal impact on the micro penis.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. Because like
Front.
that guy could have lived his entire life without a single fucking person except for him and his mom knowing, even his
Right.
siblings, that he had a micro penis.
And it would
Yeah.
be
And
challenging.
it would be
Very
challenging for him anyway, because
Yeah.
it's like that. You know, our a lot of us, our self confidence is so directly tied to our sexual health and our sexual body.
Well, in this case, it's like if it's preventing you from being able to enjoy sex,
yeah.
then
Nuts.
then
And, like,
absolutely
his-
you should be
Yeah,
trying
and
to
his
figure that
mom,
out.
like you know, I look at his mom, you know, like as funny as it is, like his mom putting herself up there and saying, "Well, I'll grow your penis for you." It's no different than a parent saying, like, "All right, well, our kidneys are a match, so I'll give you my kidney." You know, like I'll donate this thing for you to save you or to make you feel better or to, you know, whatever it is. It's just really funny that it's a penis that she
It's
was
well,
like,
I
"I'll
think
throw
there's
this
a
on your arm."
difference.
Penises are
with
funny.
it. I
Yeah,
think there's
yeah.
a difference because it's a penis because
Yeah.
of the sort of like I don't know how to
There
describe
definitely
it,
is
like,
a difference there,
the-
but
the more
it is
it's
kind
more
of it is
intimate.
sort of similar in
Yeah.
terms of like sacrificing a part of yourself in order to sort of save someone close to you. You know, he went on to say, "But for me, this is all hilarious. It's also funny to me how much things have changed. As soon as I had the phalloplasty, referring to his mom, he said, she sees me as a man and not her baby anymore. It's safe to say we discuss it a lot less now, and I have a lot more privacy." Anik now hopes this to channel his past pain into something productive.
like an OnlyFans.
Having co-founded a charity,
Dude, he could kill it on
He
OnlyFans.
Would yeah.
having co-founded a charity to help ensure others in situations like his get access to better support. He also hopes that one day to become a social worker to provide specialist support to children and young people to understand their rights whilst in hospital. Encouraging people in the same boat to go and use therapy to, quote, work on yourself and understand what you want, Anik said. My problem was that surgery was the quickest and easiest option, and it was planned for me since I was a kid. I never had the psychological support I needed, even until now. Figure out what your aim is by having any procedure, because it can seem great or easy, but it comes with a lot of risks and unexplained complications. Phalloplasty is very cosmetic, and it often feels like it's for other people rather than me. Often, my own sexual sensation was an afterthought. The focus was functional about my future partner rather than me. Quote, seek out people in similar situations because you're not alone. This is a surprisingly common procedure for something that doctors call rare. The first way to find someone is through your doctor if you're already on the path to getting this procedure. Otherwise, people like me online talk about phalloplasty and our bodies a lot more than maybe we should. I love that story. Like I would love to get Anik on the show. I think that would be so,
Especially
so
since
fun.
like the idea of a micro penis, I feel like is almost exclusively used as like a comedic bit. And it's like, there is something funny about just penises. There's something funny about penises, but it's a very,
they look funny.
but it's a very, it'd be a very impact,
very not funny
a very
for-
not funny life scenario to be.
I
dealing
like
with.
his message. I think it's really important.
I should toss this into Feel Good Friday next week. We talked about it on Turn Me On at length, but we never talked about it here. I'm surprised I didn't tell you guys about it. But there's a woman on OnlyFans who's killing it right now, and she has
The
two,
baby?
She has two vaginas.
No,
Cash me outside.
no, bad. What's a bad
Bad
baby?
baby?
That baby?
Yeah.
No, this woman has two vaginas, and she's a sex worker, and she uses one of her vaginas for clients, but she reserves her other vagina for her partner.
Wow, that is something else.
And I went on to OnlyFans and saw how it works, and it is very interesting. It is a very
How close together are they?
like side by side,
Side by side.
side by side.
There's two
Two
And
holes, two vaginal openings. She has two uteruses. She can get pregnant
Does she have
by two
multiple
different
lips?
people at the same time. No, it's no. So
So
like,
one looking, one externally looking vagina.
She has one vulva,
yeah,
but she has two vaginas. Like she has two.
vaginal openings.
not stacked, but side by side.
They looked stacked,
Okay, stacked. would
like
make
two,
sense.
like one on top of the
each
other.
other.
And so
We've talked about that on the podcast.
Did we?
No, we talked about it. We talked to somebody who had a uterus that was split.
Yeah, no, this woman
That
has
was years ago.
This woman has 2 vaginas, like she could get pregnant by 2 people at the same time.
Wow. She have 2 ovaries though?
Yeah.
So
It's 2 everything up in there.
No, because you have
So 4 ovaries?
she have 4 ovaries or
Yeah.
2?
4? I don't know.
That'd
I
be
don't know.
interesting.
Yeah, it's very wild.
Fuck, that's crazy.
Very wild. Yeah.
She was a twin and was meant to separate from the vagina, but it just
Maybe.
She just
it
ate her twin.
It only started.
Yeah.
It just started.
I wonder if
like
that
1%.
is.
It could have been that.
I wonder if that is the theory.
Could have been.
Probably not.
I mean, maybe.
It's like that the Black Alien Project.
Oh my
Like,
god!
not
what
talking about
percentage
Get
of
me started
evolved
on
you are?
that guy?
We could have him on the podcast.
No, we do not want that.
I had
Speaking of 2s, he just put a post up the other day, and I don't know if it was a joke or not.
Oh no! What do you do?
It looks like his next evolution is to grow is to have 2 penises.
Are you serious?
I'm not joking.
Um,
All right. Well, folks, thanks for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed this conversation. We are coming at you 3 times a week, Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. And if you're listening to the podcast, if you're listening to all those episodes, that's awesome. We really love it. Listen, some news. September, we're coming out west. SATE, we're going to be doing a show in Calgary at SATE. It's probably our 3rd, 4th show there. Love coming to the college. Love seeing you folks out in Calgary. So put it in your calendars. We're going to be doing that show. I believe it is September 24th.
That is correct.
And while we're out there, we're going to hop in a car and we're going to drive all the way to Vancouver. And we're going to do a show in Vancouver the week of the 18th in September. So we are so excited to get back on the road. So excited to come out and see y'all.
Mm-hmm.
Keep your eyes peeled on our social media for when tickets go up. And of course, we'll be plugging the shit out of that on the podcast when those tickets are on sale. We cannot wait to see you on the road. And Edmonton, we might come up and see you too. Who knows? If you want to support the podcast, folks, you can leave a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Or if you're listening on Spotify, you can use your Spotify mobile app to leave a rating. And of course, every episode is talked about at length on our Discord, among other things. If you want to join the conversation and join our little community that is continuously growing, you can check the Discord link in the show notes of this episode.
And if you have a story that you'd like to share with us, anything that you hear, or just like a general feel good story that you want to send us, you can do that by sending that to letters@sickboypodcast.com. And if you want to be a guest on Sick Boy, you can go to sickboypodcast.com/contact and fill out the guest form.
I wanted to check this in at the end. I meant to bring it up earlier when we were talking about the blood bank in Israel, but it reminded me of talking about the blood ban that we were talking about and the changes in Canada. And there's this thing that we should probably dig into a little bit more for maybe next week's episode. But it was a tweet that said Canada has not lifted the blood ban. It has simply reworded its policy to ban people by sexual behavior and still only asks about anal sex, not vaginal sex, condom use, or other behaviors. And the testing also excludes anyone taking the HIV prevention drug PrEP. So mostly queer men. So there's still, I think, probably a lot of work to do around that. And it would definitely be worth it to dig into that for next week.
Certainly, yeah.
Interesting.
And thanks for that tweet. Thanks for sending that to us.
That was from Rosie.
Thanks, Rosie.
And thanks to the people who make this show happen. Thanks to our manager, Jeff Lonis, and to Rich O'Coin for the theme music. We love you guys.
That is it for this week.
I'm Brian.
I'm Taylor.
And I'm Jeremy, and this is Sick Boy.